get what a lot of you really enjoy about this when you're playing video games. Like, we all enjoy different things. I get that. I'm not here to yuck your yum. Hey, welcome back to the channel. That's right, you do need to vote for Squirrel Girl. Look, if one of the rest of these champions is like your absolute favorite, go ahead and listen to this, have some fun, maybe poke some holes in what I'm going to say. And I will admit, I was going to kind of negatively campaign with a lot of jokes about these other champions because to me, it is so obvious that we need the skill champions. It's part of why I said we needed the Moon Knight, like the skill champions, Mr. Knight. We needed that. I'm tired of getting my ass kicked by all the science champions in the game. We had literally Kabam's host of the live stream, like paid by Kabam to go on and talk about the champions on the live stream, say to us last year, Negasonic Teenage Warhead has destroyed every single skill threat that has ever been created for eternity, the rest of the game. Maybe a little bit of hyperbole from me, but that was in essence what they said. And guess what? Since then, they've put out Dazzler and they're about to put out Jean Grey, who does seem to handle the vast majority of the threats that the skill champions put out. So not only can our poor skill champions not defeat the overpowered science champions that they keep shoving down our throats, but also the mutant class is completely neutered the defensive house of our skill champions, meaning you've ranked them up for battlegrounds, and guess what? The mutants are just laughing at you and your defenders now. All right, let's go ahead and talk about these champions, though. All right, the first one I do want to talk about, because, she's the only science champion in the list, is Invisible Woman. I can definitely see why, one, there'd be a lot of excitement for her. Right? This is like one of the iconic characters. She's part of the first family, the Fantastic Four. The video is coming out soon, right? And a lot of players, like, I get it. Like, different people play the game for different reasons. This isn't why I play video games, but I know a lot of players really like different things about champions, right? And with Invisible Woman, there is a lot to like. Now, I did go to, Kabam's scores, and I'm not going to do this for every single champion because, you guys know why. Right, but I went because it was like, my mind, she's always been more of a defender. Now, people like Allison Edits and other people have shown Invisible Woman do tremendous damage. And a lot of that is coming from right here. I think it's going to be this force field. No, invisibility, okay? She does have a force field mechanic. You're seeing like what seems like a much better version of that in Jean Grey that's coming out. So that's pretty cool. There's something there that they could already work with. But essentially, you get invisible. You get up all these fragilities, and you just like can't get hit, right? If you get hit, you lose your total ramp, and certain players really like this. Like Allison Edis has shown tremendous damage being done, these sorts of things, and players, people like me are always like, that is really, really cool. However, when I'm giving advice to you as players, like, I don't know if I would advise you doing that and that. Like, if you already find that to be a good time, great, go for it. But if the vast majority of people don't understand what's going on, you're probably not going to enjoy it. So like I said, I went to the champion attributes page because in my mind, she's a defender, and lo and behold, her highest rated attribute on the champion, like Kabam telling us, like, here's what they're supposed to be or what we were hoping they would be, is a defender. I have to ask you, dear player, and even if you're like, hey, I'm not at 7 stars yet, totally fine. And I hope, thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this game. Is you're eventually going to get to 7 stars. You fought Photon, right? Do you want more 7-star science defenders right now? Are you feeling like your 7-star, or if you're not there, when you get there, your 7-star skill champions are adequately prepared for you to handle the variety of places where what's potentially a new and improved Photon with the force field, which prevents her from taking damage, is where you want to be? Is that what you're hoping for in the game? Which I know kind of sucks, right? Because I would like Invisible Woman to be better too. And maybe they have only a offensive buff planned, but really, is that what you think that they have planned? I tend to think not, considering they already tried to build her as an attacker or as a defender. And here's the thing. When she came out, Dragon Man was not in the game yet. They created a synergy with Dragon Man that helps you out. I think she like keeps her invisibility a certain time or something like that. So people enjoy using her offensively, and she can do tremendous damage. Already have a synergy that like handles a lot of those problems for you. She's fine if this is really what you're wanting. Like, I get it. Like I said, we all like different things. This isn't what I'm looking for. And I don't need my science champions. I already struggle to decide who I'm going to put my science ISO into or my rank up materials, I don't currently need another one to try to be figuring that out. And as far as like my defensive side for me, Photon's doing just fine. All right, next we'll talk about Morningstar, and you know, a really cool ramp up Mystic champion, a lot of dark colors going on, a flaming like weapon that's huge that ramps up over the course of a quest, incredibly powerful. Like that sounds awesome, and I would love to have a champion like that in the game. You know, when Abyss of Legends was in, a lot of people actually used Morningstar for one particular lane that was the Mystic lane, right? And if you get enough buffs on the opponent and you ramp up Morningstar, she can already do significant damage. If I recall correctly, she's got a really nice power gain. So I could see why people would want a Mystic champion in the game who's like pretty good already, right? Maybe you can even use her in Battlegrounds, kind of representing like kind of the like shady, darker side, like kind of a little bit evil maybe. We're not totally sure where she is on things, in a Mystic character that can ramp up and get stronger over the course of a quest. And so I can really see why people would want a champion like that in the game. The thing for me, though, is, you know, and I talked about this at length again on my channel, is last year, it was like Kabam was like, hey, we know Mystics are really good, but we put out Serpent. So let's go ahead and put out like a pseudo Serpent counter, like White Tiger is great. Let's put out White Tiger. Great. Okay. And then, you know, at some point there, we realized like, hey, you know what? Werewolf by Night is really good too. And then they're like, hey, we need to put out another one. And then so like Spiral came out, and then we got like ISO Fiend. And this is not even including, right, Juggernaut, America Chavez, Kushala, who I'm a big fan of. And so it feels like the Mystic class like did not need any of this. And I know I'm already forgetting some champions who were phenomenal. And then at the tail end of 2024, we just got like 4 Mystic champions who completely added Shathra, who is a current total favorite of mine. I'm literally working on a video on her because she has been so phenomenal. And so like the Mystic class, and then like Purgatory. Purgatory is awesome too. A great ramp up champion who actually starts off really good in Battlegrounds. People are using her at high ranks. You get a signature stuff. Oh my God, this has been her Purgatory the whole time. Like wow, you know, like what Morningstar feels like she's kind of supposed to be. I just, in my own like excitement to make the video, I forgot we've already got buff Morningstar in the game. All right, and then we're going to move on to Rogue, and we're going to move on to the mutants now. And then I'll start talking about the other champions. I'm like, you know what? I kind of get it with them. They're still not going to help the game nearly as much, or I think be as beneficial for the game as a whole as Squirrel Girl would be. But we'll move on to them. This is kind of the last one where, again, like I get what a lot of you really enjoy about this when you're playing video games. Like we all enjoy different things. I get that. I'm not here to yuck your yum. It's just this isn't what I'm looking for when I'm thinking about, hey, I'm going to do my Battlegrounds fights, or I'm going to do my war fights, or I want to, you know, get in there Act 9.2. But again, I'm not here to yuck your yum. So we're going to talk about these champions, right? And, you know, here's the thing. For those of you who haven't been playing the game for a long time, every like few months, Sweeta, MCoC channel, goes in and like shows us how incredibly powerful Rogue is, how well she can be played. You definitely want to get this like life and power steal with the signature ability going. This is an incredibly powerful champion already. For me, if I'm like voting for like a rework or a nice buff to be coming in, like I'm not wanting it from Rogue. She's already like honestly pretty damn good. This would be some simple tweaks. I would prefer saving that sort of thing. Like I don't get to make these decisions, but like, hey, Kabam, maybe if we don't have 3 champions that need buffs or to be rebalanced, right? Like the new champions, the new cadence for the new champions. If you end up like, let's say Patriot's the only one in batch 1, I would much prefer Kabam's like, hey, you know what? One of our designers can take a look at Rogue, make some tweaks, we can test that, and then she comes out because she's already incredibly powerful. She just hasn't really kept up with the power creep of the game. There was a period of time where she was very good, unlike the rest of these champions. The rest of these champions, and I'm staring at them, have never had a period of time in this game where they were well regarded as a very powerful champion. The closest would be Morningstar, but it was always like, look, those first few fights are brutally difficult, right? And like I said, she had some use in Abyss. Rogue, on the other hand, is the strong outlier there. She was considered never the best in the game, but a good champion. And then, like we said, incredibly high skilled players could utilize her. She does fit in really well with the whole like mystic identity mutant identity, as far as like they're all a little bit different and they bring things to the table as like a team. So she fits in that. I really like this kit and what she could bring to the table. Like I said, the life steal and the power steal, technically, when you think about those, you don't really think of those as being mutant abilities. So you know me, when a champion in a class has abilities that aren't normally associated with the class, it very much gets my eyes open. So I think Kabam's learned their lesson too. They're not going to take away the identity, right? Like they kind of did some things like that, and the community really said, hey, we don't enjoy that. It felt like Kabam kind of agreed, okay, we won't do that. So for me, Rogue is probably going to be more tweaks in comparison to the rest of these. And I would prefer, if we're getting to vote for like a rework or like a really major buff, I would very much rather have those a kit that just needs some tweaks and some updating to the current power level of the game, that be saved. And Rogue, who doesn't need all that, is someone who it's like, hey, look, they just had a little extra time because the champion designers have been crushing it lately and no one need rebalance. And like, oh, lo and behold, guess what? We tweaked Rogue and now you got yourself a cool 6-star, 7-star Rogue situation. So I get it, but that's how I'm feeling strongly about Rogue. We're now going to move on to the other champions that I think there is well, we'll cover it when we get there. Jubilee is actually a pretty good champion. There's just some fundamental things like in her kit that I think are holding her back. It's been a while now, actually, but there have been times where people used her in her high sig. It's each time the opponent purifies any debuff, deal a burst of 2,665 energy damage, right? And she was being used in Battlegrounds. It's longer ago than I remember, or than I originally thought. But still, that has value, right? And you can see this like high energy resistance. When you look at this, you can see like, oh, hey, there's been updated versions of this. These are things that exist in Mutant. They're better, right? They're more fitting for what the game is asking. And then on this other side, she has this firework thing. And I think that's really cool. They dove into like what the character is about and for, right? You can really see the essence of what they were shooting for. It's just the like actually playing it in the game a little bit that becomes a bit of a struggle. Anytime we are cycling through these sorts of things, it needs to be really, really smooth. They need to build off of each other very, very well. Otherwise, as nodes and defenders get more complicated, it becomes very difficult to control your own champion. I often like to analogize this to like Kushala, right? Or America Chavez. I'm very comfortable with them, but part of why I'm comfortable with them is because they don't really cycle through things. They have their blessings and you're accumulating them. Chavez does kind of cycle them in a way. But the point of the matter is like, you don't have to like go through one to then get to the other one to then lose the ability. And when those sorts of like things start to compound, it can make them very difficult to play. And then they need to be incredibly, incredibly potent to make up for that. That's not what happened with Jubilee. If it had, people would be playing her significantly more. I think this is an iconic Marvel character. I would love to see her be incredibly powerful in the game. Maybe stick with the firework surge here, having her have different abilities, but maybe have them all be powerful enough that they do things so you don't mind staying in the phase, or you like get to keep it a little bit. Like America Chavez, when you're going through her dimensions, you don't lose all of it. You like keep some sort of the buildup along the way, similar to Kushala as well. So I would love to see that. If you really wanted to vote for Jubilee. Words are hard sometimes. I definitely get it with any of these champions. Like, I'm not here to yuck your yum, right? But it's just the mutant class just doesn't need this at all. I also feel like Jubilee, honestly, is not that far off either because of her kit. I feel like it's just the way it synergizes. I don't design champions, obviously, so I don't know how much time it's going to take to go ahead and make that significantly more fluid, make her flow better. But there it is with Jubilee. I think they could really play into this kind of like debuff, purification, punishment. But again, and this is what I talked about earlier in the intro, is like mutant is like, all jokes aside, no hyperbole, literally the host of the show said that like all skill threats have now been like demolished. And like, I mean, they kind of have. Like, there's so much of this already. Do we need more? Okay, now we've reached the point where I'm like, look, I still feel strongly Squirrel Girl is the best because of the skill element the skill class element. Not only has mutant like just totally dominated the skill class, but so has science just like taken off. And so skills having trouble like defeating them in quests and things that we get asked to do, right? I mean, you basically are like 7-star. Now I pulled 7-star rank 4 gem, right, for 3-4. Luckily for me, I already had crossbones and shield. So I had the two that I was like pumped up to take up. But if you don't have those, anyways, so I get it with X-23. I really do. Again, we talked about how like mutants, they've moved into prowess and all that stuff, but it's still like, if you think about the comic book characters, it's about all these different abilities coming together, right? In different characters. We don't have a 7-star, and I'm sorry for doing this to X-23, but I think it's exciting to be part of the Wolverine kind of universe here. We don't have a 7-star Wolverine that's not for pay. Right? Like, I love Weapon X. I do. And I show you this all the time in my videos and how powerful he is. But to the best, you correct me if I'm wrong, there's never been a chance to get him one without paying for it. He's not like in a base crystal. There's nothing like that, right? And you move on down and you can see how powerful, I mean, like Deadpool, you can see how crazy the mutant class it has become. But that's it. 6-star Wolverine exists, but we don't have a 7-star Wolverine. And so if you're wanting like that hacking, slashing style, the healing up, like you want that essence of Wolverine, I get it. And I am in no way going to try to tell you that this already exists in the game, because yeah, it does with Wolverine Weapon X, but you got to spend money to do that. And not everyone wants to or has money to spend. So I fully get it that if you're like, hey, let's get her bleeds a little better, let's get maybe her heal, although her healing's pretty good. There was a period of time, you got to go back years, where it was a conversation, who's better, Wolverine or Wolverine Weapon X? This is way before Apocalypse came in and Horseman and that sort of thing. I assume, again, her kit could be tweaked. It could be updated to the power level of today's game, and she could be a phenomenal bleed-based mutant champion, right? Like, we could really use someone like that in the game, and it would be good though. And I get it. Like, if you like Wolverine, there's a chance you really love X-23. I love the character from the movie, so she's, like I said, she's the first one. I respect Jubilee. I totally do. It's just I just don't want any more purified punishing mutants in the game if we're getting to choose. And as far as a bleed-based Wolverine style mutant, like, I get it. I really do. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the last champion before we get to Squirrel Girl. All right, now this is Proxima Midnight, and like Reedlos on my Discord server, who I've shouted out multiple times, incredibly smart player, is all in on Proxima Midnight. And you know what? I get it. Like, Cosmic champions have come a long way just in the last 6-7 months, right? Like, I have my own tier list pulled up, and we've got Deathless Thanos and Serpent in the tier above all. Hopefully a lot of you have got Serpent if you're into your 7 stars, or if not, your 6 stars. Deathless Thanos was technically available for free, I believe. Medusa received a phenomenal buff, but I think you had to pay to get her. Vox is incredible. Venom, Adam Warlock, Null, Beta Ray Bill, Gladiator, Scream, Superior Iron Man. So a lot of those are new champions or recently buffed. So the Cosmic class to me is feeling very like present. They're feeling very modern. They don't feel, again, like if you look at the skill class, a lot of the champions, even in like my second tier at the Illuminati, they're older champions. Like, they're suffering. They need that refreshing. I don't think Cosmic really needs that. And that's not why I'm like all in on this champion, despite there not being a ton of like OP Cosmic champions, if that makes sense. Now, I do also want to talk about Proxima Midnight on her own, though. It's like, she had true accuracy. When she came into the game, she was actually the champion that was hyped, not Corvus. Except something happened. Once we then started playing her, we realized it was kind of difficult to go through her different missions. Obviously, Barry on offense was not the one that was difficult to go through. The intercept and then the incapacitate. Now I look at those and I'm like, it may have just been about the skill level of all of us at that time and like what we were capable of doing. You can see she can get a really nice true accuracy. She's got a great synergy, but it's for Corvus. I would actually like to see this. Like, I will fully admit and say, Proxima Midnight is my like number 2. Wolverine Weapon X is my, I think, no, sorry, Weapon 23. You guys know what I'm trying to say. Again, words are hard. Is my number 3 choice. Proxima is my number 2. I think it'd be really cool to have her in game. I actually really do like her animations. And like I was saying, is we never really got to experience her. When she came into the game, we saw, you know, they were, I don't know if it was technically called the CCP at that time, but we saw the videos of them showing us like this outrageous damage she could do. My God, it was amazing. But then we played her and realized all the places you would potentially do that have damage caps. And so, in all honesty, that's my concern with her, is if they stick with that essence, and I imagine Kabam wouldn't, right? They're very smart now and have been for a few years. The champion designers are very smart. They obviously know the game. They know what's being asked for and where it's working. I highly doubt they would do that to us. So I'm going to assume that that's not what they would do, that if Proxima was to win and to get the buff, they would not do that to us, basically build this champion that literally can't be used anywhere that exists in the game. I assume that there would be some sort of like a better flow in her mission system. I do think she could be really, really cool. My like, yeah, but is it does not feel like the tech class is currently asking us to do things that the cosmic champions aren't already doing very, very well. The balance between cosmic and tech has stayed really nice while they've both grown together. Like we have Zola, who's just come out. We've got Red Skull, who just came out. And we had another Arcade. Really good defenders. But through skilled play and through the cosmic class and abilities that exist there, we do have some options. And so I don't feel like we're really needing a cosmic champion right now to come in and like really help a class out badly. All right, and now we're moving on to like my number 1 pick, okay? And I don't hide the ball, right? I like Squirrel Girl. I like her from a television show that I watched with my kids like 5 years ago, okay? She was a cool character. I really liked her. I thought she was great. Part of why I like America Chavez so much, actually. But then I actually have to play the game. And, you know, I pulled the 3-4 gem for skill, and I was very happy because I had a lot of champions I wanted to take up. And it truly was like, I was trying to figure it out and go through that. Shield and Crossbones, when I did the video with the Illuminati and everyone advising, and I hoped a lot of people learned from it, seems like they did from the comments, was Shield and Crossbones just like immediately shot to the top. Like it was just so like, they're the best. And they're both very good, right? Shield has the cleanse and the grit. Crossbones has the purify and the crits. You know, and Black Cat is very good. You've got your defenders and Bullseye and Atuma, but again, Kabam literally went live and told us that like they're destroyed now. And that was for Negasonic Teenage Warrior. Onslaught was already doing a lot of that work, and then we got Dazzler, and now we're about to get Jean Grey. So they keep getting killed over and over, right? Hitmonkey's great, but he's also like 4 years old. Elsa Bloodstone, phenomenal champion, falling off. Mantis, really, really cool. Very strong against science champions. In my opinion, not as strong elsewhere when you're talking about questing and things. I know she can be really good in battlegrounds. Korg is a defender. He was destroyed even before Bullseye and Atuma and Killmonger. Shang-Chi is great. I really like Shang-Chi, but again, showing age. Silver Sable, great against science champions, but lacking outside. Good champion, though. Don't get me wrong, okay? Black Panther, I think very, very cool. I feel like very battlegrounds oriented. Mole Man, also good. Again, like 4 years older, and they neutered him. They took him to the vet and they got him neutered, right? Like it happened. They were like, we don't care if it's been this way for 3 or 4 years. It's a mistake and we are fixing that. So like they recently gave us Gwenpool. Like I like Gwenpool. She's fun. Don't get me wrong. But like that's been the new introduction to the skill class. You're like, how about some Gwenpool? And we're like, that's not helping, but thanks, I guess. I don't know. Hawkeye, Ronin. You guys like literally, I don't need to say the names. You can just see it. Now, Koi, maybe she might be the savior that we need because she is different than Shield and Crossbones, but that still would only be 3. I think Patriot's good. A lot of you told me he's not. No point in going there further. So I think it's pretty clear The skill class could use help. I think they are good. I was lucky enough to have options, but think about when you get there. Even if you don't have 7 stars now, you're eventually going to. And when you get there, you want to have options, don't you? And if you're not familiar with Squirrel Girl's kit, she has some of, I remember when she came into the game, we thought that there might be some real value to her. And she has some of this combo manipulation. Let me find it. There it is. When making contact with light attack, Squirrel gains an additional hit into her combo meter. Now, I don't think it's any coincidence that we've now seen the actual war map change, and they're actually asking for this now. We see Okoye with like the extra hits. This is something that like it felt like Kabam was building to years ago when Squirrel Girl came out, and then it just never came to fruition for whatever reason. But literally now we're seeing nodes asking for it. We've seen some defenders like gently ask for it, and it's been helpful. So another champion updated as a 7-star that can come in and do that. She has very powerful bleeds. I've always thought that was a little strange considering she has a squirrel. And when you think about the champion, she's very much known for like her smarts, for ways of thinking. Like she outthought Doom and beat Doom by utilizing her squirrels. So I think there's plenty of room there. And we've seen this with like in Okoye, right? With a champion where she has bleed and shock. And if a champion's immune to one, then the other one like kind of doubles up to make up for it. We've got shield with the bleeds. We have a lot of bleeds in skill. I mean, they could stick with it. That'd be fine. But update Squirrel Girl to something that either replaces the bleed completely or she has some sort of like matching. If they're immune to bleed, then the squirrel bites them, give them rabies. I don't know. Again, I'm not a champion designer. Plus that there is this whole thing with Tippy. And Tippy is a large part of the character and also just her relationship with squirrels in general. That can be utilized. Plus she does have a slow. Now her slow can actually be utilized pretty well. In my playing with her, this has been a while now. The slow is off of the SP1, if I remember correctly. And it was a little difficult to utilize everything and still get to her major damage, which was really never that great to begin with. She's close. She's close. But I do think she could really use not only tweaks to her kit, but she could use updating as a whole to make her, she was never great in the game, but to make her a great champion that we're using widely, that answers modern asks of the science class and nodes, and also the war map. And often when we see it in war, we eventually see some version of it in questing. And as I've stated multiple times, this class is very good. I was happy to pull skill, but of the classes, when you compare them to the rest, they are lacking a lot, not only in keeping up with the other classes is just in general, but when it comes to what's actually available to us as 7 stars. And I know some of you are thinking, well, all they have to do is introduce Fury and Kingpin. I really don't think that's happening, maybe ever. And I'm not willing to sit around and wait and bet that it will. Because I feel like those champions may have been deemed just way too powerful in their own way. That's a whole different topic and a whole different conversation. But honestly, ask yourself, do you really want to sit around and wait for Kingpin and Fury in order to balance out the strength amongst these classes? As usual, let me know what we think we got right. Let me know what we think we got wrong. This video took way longer than I thought it was going to, but you all asked for a serious video. Obviously, there was jokes in there. I think you probably caught them, but I did try to be very serious and like, why? Number 3 is X-23. Number 2 is Proxima Midnight. And number 1, and by a large margin, is Squirrel Girl. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.